Okay. Apologies to everyone for that long wait. Just had to do login details with Gmail, but now it's working. So welcome to How to Make Fan Film Part 2. So this is the sort of second part after 2 years of, or at least a year hiatus for my first fan film panel. My name is Aidan. Hello. Hope everyone is doing well at the con today. And fan films, they are a lot. I've made a couple of fan films over the years and it's mental. They're interesting, mad, creatively mental to do, but they are so much fun and just a joy to make. So what is a fan film? The Urban Dictionary online says it's an amateur film made by a small group with either no budget or a very tiny one. Wikipedia says that a fan film is a film or video inspired by a film, television program, a comic book, a video game created by fans, rather than by the sources, copyright holders, or creators. So by fans. Here are the basics. You got concepting, scripting, storyboarding, casting, filming, editing, and release. These are all important elements in what go into making a fan film, or just any film in general, but you get the idea. So concepting, this is where you come up with the idea, where in your head you're thinking, I want to make something, and how do I do that? How do I achieve it? How do I make this thing that I have in my head go wherever I want it to be? It could be either animation, 3D animation, stop motion, or fan films, but in this case, what kind of fan film do you guys want to make? So you go to scripting. Once you kind of have your idea, you take it to a script. Now, I'm going to say it straight off, you don't have to have a script for your first fan film. You can just be saying stuff off of whatever you think. You could be making something just at random, improvising. That's generally what some acting is about. But when you need something to follow, a script is key and it does help. So writing it out and kind of getting a baseline of what everything is and how it's all going to happen and fall into each other is good. Storyboarding. This is where you kind of draw up your visualization of what you want the film to look like through the camera. So here is some stuff from the film I made with one of my friends a couple of years ago, basically kind of framing how I want it to look on the camera. Lovely little Spider-Man stuff there back in the day, that was nice. But yeah, you just do a few little details like close-up, what scene it is, and just a few details, just so when you're there on the day, you're following this as your guide, and you're sorted. Casting. Now, in the shortage of a budget, your best people for your fan film is either yourself or your mates. So anyone you know, just ask if they'd be up for doing it, like for a little bit of acting or whatever. Or if it's something that's more parody based, if they'd be up for just having a bit of fun. And you go from there. Filming. Oh, there I am. So yeah, filming can generally be an interesting process because you've got all the other elements laid out and then you just take them to screen, I guess. You could either be, well, like one of my buddies here on a green screen, me on a green screen, or just out on different locations doing a few different things. And it can vary because you can work with different people and it can be different characters, different situations, and it really works out. Now, do you need all this stuff? Like a Sony A7, a Canon 100D with these big floodlight kind of LEDs and a big, very professional tripod? No, you don't. You just need, where is it? This. Just an iPhone or an Android or whatever kind of phone you have. Honestly, it's just, nowadays a phone is just as good as a camera. As long as you can record something, clip it, put it in an editor, you're good to go. I mean, I made a whole Christmas mini-sode on this thing, and that's saying something. Now, I did use the Blackmagic app, which I will recommend to anyone at the end of this showing. Editing. So, you've got the 3 horsemen of the apocalypse here. You've got Adobe with After Effects and Premiere Pro, which aren't bad, they're very detailed, though they cost a pretty penny, same as Final Cut Pro, cost a pretty penny, but you get a great editing softwares and a visual effects software, which isn't too bad, and you can do some really good stuff with that. But you could literally just use DaVinci Resolve, which is free. It is just as good as After Effects and Premiere Pro. It has some great color grading options, and you get the best of both worlds. iMovie. I started using iMovie when I got into this thing, and it did a great job. It was honestly able to make a few stop motions at the beginning, worked out. And now I use VN, which honestly, it's just been grand for shorts. I do a lot of shorts on YouTube now, mainly about Pokemon, and it's just been so simple and easy. You know, the clipping is easy, you get through it fast, and you're done. You know, but whatever you guys feel, it's up to you guys. And now a moment of silence for our fallen brother, Windows Movie Maker. Okay, so release. Now on release, you can send it to different places like YouTube, Vimeo, which are the main kind of places, though Vimeo is rather, small time for anyone who actually remembers what Vimeo does. But YouTube is the big one, it's the commercial one, it's got all the ads, it's got everything, and we all know that. But nowadays people are also using Instagram and TikTok. And to be honest, it's not bad. I mean, I've watched a couple of little short things on TikTok, and people can do amazing things if they just frame it a certain way and just, make a certain video. I mean, somebody I know who does literally little short TikToks made a long form one for about, 3 minutes, and did a really great job. And who gets to enjoy it? Well, your family and friends, or just whoever. And these are some stock photos from Google that I just decided to put in because I don't actually have any photos of anyone seeing these or reacting, but that's the general idea. You want it to be a positive reaction, or just something that people can laugh at and have a laugh with you. Now, copyright. Oh no, God. The big problem when you're releasing a fan film, it's in the name. You are going to be under siege from so many companies who are there like, you're using my product name without my permission. I'm going to strike the hell out of you so that your channel is gone, it's dead, it is in the water. So what do you do to combat this? Fan-made, non-profit. Yeah, basically state this and act on it. Be very much saying, I funded this myself, it is from me only, there's no particular crowdfunding unless it is going particularly into the project and nothing else, like it's not paying for you or anything like rent or whatnot. But yeah, essentially. Now this is what I made on the phone at Christmas. Little teaser. All of this filmed on an iPhone.
Merry Christmas.
And that was the night of Krampus. So, the one thing I kept when I made Night of Krampus was heart. You gotta have heart with these things. You can't just do this just as like, oh, I want to get famous or whatever. It's gotta be something that you really feel that you want to do. You want to make this. You want to do it because it's something that you feel is the right thing to do, and just you have a creative drive for it. And honestly, the limit is your creativity. How creative you are is how much you'll do for this project. Whatever you feel you want to do, you go for that. So here's some examples. The Green Goblin's Last Stand. This was a film made by Dan Poole in the 90s. He wanted to make a film that would essentially get noticed by James Cameron and hopefully give him a job on his Spider-Man film. The only issue was James Cameron's Spider-Man film never happened. And so Dan basically made this film just for himself on 400 quid, which nowadays would be over $1,000. So, he was jumping over rooftops, jumping on top of cars, and there's one particular thing that he did that is quite shocking. He swung around a building.
the reality of that shot didn't hit me until I was actually viewing it through the viewfinder. Man, it looked all right. Do it again. Seeing him swing around that building, when I filmed it, I didn't expect it to turn out the way it did. I guess because when I was viewing it, I was filled with fear.
People ask all the time, why did you swing from that fire escape? Why did you swing around that building? The answer, the simple answer has always been, I needed the shot. That's it. That's it. How am I going to show a guy with the ability to shoot webs and swing around the city without swinging around the city? It had to be. And it was just that simple. It was just get a rope, dress it up, tie it off, hang on real tight, and push off.
There's no way that we could have faked that shot whatsoever. I mean, I know the big movie companies can and do, but that was a real thing, and you can tell that it's a real thing, so I'd have to say it was definitely worth it.
So yeah, swung around the building, and thankfully did not die. So here's some other examples. Loomis Entertainment's Batman Beyond. These guys got this crowdfunded and got somebody who actually was from a DC show called Titans and made a Batman Beyond fan film. And for what they did, incredible. Now, it's a lot more, studio type, they're a small time studio, but what they did, they managed to make something that honestly looked pretty impressive, and I just thought they should make more. And that's actually the actor who plays Beast Boy in Titans, if anybody notices. And yeah, nuts. Power Rangers Unworthy. Now this is a fan film series that was out for about, the years around the 2020s. It was a series about this character over there called the Arbiter that was essentially killing a load of Power Rangers. And it went from being something that was very much a load of stunt actors wanting to make some portfolio work to a really good story that is still ongoing at the moment, and they're still trying to finish it. But I think it's a really good series. It's a really good example of people who do a lot of stunt work getting to showcase their talents and their acting. And honestly, it kind of just feels like something that's true to the original series, and I think a lot of people should give it a watch. Pokemon Starter Squad. Now this is one really fucking hilarious series, because it goes from being the most tame thing in the world. Guy choosing Pokemon, but it's from the Pokemon's perspective, and they essentially go off on their own journey to go and, be Charmander essentially wants to be a trainer, the fire lizard thing, and it goes from that to the turtle becoming that and causing chaos for the whole video game world. And if that isn't more anime, I don't know what is. So yeah, nuts. One-on-one. Now this last example was something I just thought because it was very small time and niche, but I liked it. It's essentially Clark Kent talking to somebody who is sort of going through a really tough time. And it's Superman. Everybody's looking at this guy with glasses and knows that's Superman, but I like that they didn't go and have just Superman pop up in the film. That it's just Clark Kent in regular clothes, chatting to somebody as who he is. He's a reporter, just trying to be a good friend to somebody, which Superman is. So now we get on to creators, people who've actually done fan films in the community, and are generally some wonderful bunch. Daniel Patton, good friend, love him. He's made Fractured Timeline, which is both a YouTube channel and a YouTube series. It's based off of Doctor Who, where Dan essentially plays his own doctor with his lovely wife Anya as his companion, and meets a whole bunch of characters and monsters throughout it in a storyline that is encapsulated nearly 10 years of just a lot of struggle and perseverance, and it's just insane. He's made so much, and I've been in it. I won't say the role. I want people to go and watch this and actually find out, but it's always been a joy to work with him, and we've been friends for I think nearly 5 years, and he's just managed to do so much with something that I don't even think the show could do. I don't even think it could do today. He's changing the game, and if he's not working on the actual show in the next couple of years, I will be fucking surprised. And this is his finale. He's making his last ever fan film called Doctor Lost the Time, or at least his last Doctor Who one. And it's just insane. It's just, so much has gone into it. I'm so proud of him, and I just can't wait to see what happens at the end. And this is Jackie Smith, who will be taking over from him as the next Doctor. I just thought I'd make that relevant because I was just really happy that, you know, this happened. And it's the trailer for one of his fan films.
I told you about that day. That dark day. The day I lost my brother. Not you.
Identify or you will be taken for extermination.
Maggie?
The Daleks have ruled over this dimension for the past 5 years. All of time and space.
Maggie, please. This isn't you.
They took you away from me!
Exterminate!
I will find you. I will kill you. I will exterminate you!
The Dalek Empire will continue and expand, not just in space, but time and the multiverse itself.
So yeah, that was done. Now we're on to Connor Chadwick. Connor is another good friend who has also made a lot of different fan films based in the Doctor Who universe, and you know, a lot of similar people, but they've done a lot of great stuff. We've all worked together a long time and just done some great stuff, and I'm just really proud of it. Jed TE Rhodes. Jed has been in the game for nearly over 15 years. He's been making a lot of different fan films, from Star Treks to Doctor Who, now to Star Wars. He's been able to diversify and do a lot of different things, and yeah, he's just done really well. And he massively learned Blender, which is levels above what I could do. So fair play to him. Rory Guest. Rory's in a lot of experimentalism. There's a lot of different types with his films. He's doing a lot of original stuff now. But when he was doing Doctor Who, he did some stuff that honestly I don't think anyone else has really done. And his first film, which I'm trying to remember the name of, like I know Ashes to Ashes, which was his other one that he had kind of a David Bowie song over, was really good. And just I think he just manages to, you know, make you think a bit more with his films, because I think this does a great job and really proud of it. Ruben Roper. Ruben is a lovely stage performer and friend. He's done a lot of Doctor Who, Torchwood type films, and it's just got incredible range. He's done so much, and honestly, he's just an amazing performer. And he's doing his last ever show at the moment about his character York, which is a skeleton that he carries around and makes moves with. And yeah, just incredible stuff.
Hi everyone, my name is Daniel Patton and I'm a fan filmmaker from Derry, Northern Ireland.
Hi, my name's Ruben Roper. I'm from Cornwall. I am a filmmaker, writer, actor and theatre director. And I'm also a Doctor Who fan. Fan films that I have made or have been in include Fortuna Vega Studios' Torchwood 2000, Memories Are Forever, Overton Audios, Jaxus and the Crimson Hunter, and the upcoming finale for the fantastic Doctor Who Fractured Timeline.
Hello there, my name is Carl Chadwick and I make fan films and fan audio dramas on YouTube under Overton Audios.
Hello, my name is Rory S., formerly known as Rasson Productions. I am a 23-year-old content creator who started 5 years ago. 5 years? Well, 6 years technically.
Hello, I am Jed TE Rhodes and I make fan films. I know, scary. So I have here a list of questions that I've been asked to answer. I'm going to answer them. And they're about fan films, I think. Maybe one of them's about the philosophy of the entire universe. Life, the universe, and everything. I guess we'll find out.
I've been making fan films for 14 years, since 2012, when I was in secondary school. And to go from where I was then to where I am now, it's been quite some journey.
I started right in the middle of the pandemic, and I started with a fan audio series called Doctor Who Dark Days, which was a very ambitious series, which was unapologetically fan fiction and it covered a broad amount of Doctor Who. But it was fun and it was exciting and I absolutely love it.
So I started making fan films when I was 12 years old, which would have been 2007. I haven't always been making fan films. I went through a bit of a 5-year gap at one point, but yeah, I've always been within the sort of fan film fandom of sorts, on and off for all that time. But as of late, I've been looking more into audio dramas. With some fan films, I make a couple a year or so. So back in the day, I used to make fan films just by picking up my old digital camera and just holding it up and filming. Use my living room as the TARDIS. I put like a little table in the middle and put a lamp there and a keyboard and then just pretend that was the TARDIS console. But as the years went on, we started to use green screen to put myself, if I was playing the Doctor or anybody else, onto it. We'd pretend to tap a console and we'd put the console on top and make it look like we were in the TARDIS. And there are some cases where we've been able to work with people who've actually had a live action real set as well. Some people in Birmingham we work with, which was great as well. Those were great opportunities. But a lot of the other processes we use nowadays is, write a script, plan out when you're filming, and obviously you edit it later. And sometimes you get visual effects artists, and we've got a couple of friends who do visual effects for us, which has been really, really helpful. But the process itself always has to start with the idea, with the story. You write that, and typically, if the story's good and if the budget doesn't match, as long as the story holds, then you've got something.
I have been making fan films since I was about 9, I think. I grew up in the early days of YouTube and was obsessed with fan content. The idea that you could go onto YouTube and watch different Doctor Who episodes that weren't on TV and had been made by fans for fans. I grew up with a lot of things like Trinity Productions, Matthew Chambers, Devious, a lot of these sort of interesting little nuggets of fandom online, which is what we now know as the early days of the online Doctor Who community. It very much used to be a thing of just me and my friends playing as you would in the playground, make-believe, and filming it, and then adding costumes and props and, stuff like that. We never really wrote scripts because we were 9. We were really, really young, and we kind of just made it up as we went along. But actually, I look back at that now as an artist, and I go, okay, what I was doing then was storytelling in my own way. And yeah, so that was my original process.
Oh, how long have I been making fan films? I've been making fan films, strictly speaking, for 20 years. First released one about 15 years ago, so it took me 5 years to get to the point where I knew people who could record and edit better than I could. But I've been sort of on and off making stuff for all that time, really. So the first fan film that we released was the Long Barrow Brothers, myself and Anthony Treasure. We released Encounter in 2011. I've been releasing fan films for 15 years, which is impressive. That's a long time. So yeah.
I say my process for making fan films is the same process I'd have for any other film. I make films as a profession as well. I went to film school, so the way I would treat fan filmmaking is the same way I treat normal filmmaking. Well, filmmaking, fan filmmaking, same thing, different ingredients, but it's the same thing, it's the same procedure. You have your pre-production, you have your production, you have your post-production. Obviously, you spend most of your time in pre-production, make sure that everything goes well for production, and then post-production. I think that my process has always been to spend as much time in pre-production as possible, to really stay in the comfort effort in it of just really airing out that script, really getting those storyboards done, really making sure that the cast are ready and ready to go in a moment's notice. So I think that's my thing. Like, I really like to spend as much time in pre-production to really air out and iron out anything that could potentially go wrong. Does it work? No, it doesn't work. There's always things that go wrong. Not everything is in your control in this craft.
The process now, obviously, it does still come down to that sort of idea. I realised the other day that I basically think about dialogue all the time, and it's usually based around Doctor Who, because I'm a nerd about it, and it's, even though, I've done a lot of other films about a lot of other things, it will come to me in the bath, it'll come to me while I'm going for a walk, and that sort of random idea will start, and then I will start writing things down, I'll start thinking about who can play those characters, and very quickly it will kind of grow from there. Sometimes some of the best fan films I've ever made have come from a huge amount of planning, and then there have been other fan films that I've made, like Jaxus and the Crimson Hunter and things like that, which have come from a random idea, a script written in one night, and kind of the right stuff coming together by luck, in a way. The longest sort of process that I've had for a fan film was making Torchwood 2000, which was our own version of Torchwood, but set in a post-apocalyptic future. I played a character called Jaxus, and that character actually came from a pilot for another Doctor Who spin-off called Temporis. We spent a year trying to make that happen, and it didn't happen. And we spent another year trying to do a different version of Temporis, and that didn't happen. And so then we went, shall we just try and do Torchwood? Because it seems more manageable. Torchwood is, it's all set on Earth. Yes, there are aliens and monsters and a bit of time travel here and there, but it's mainly set on Earth, so that's more doable locations-wise. And then finally we managed to make a 2-part serial, and we released it. People liked it.
Describe my process in creating said fan films. Right. The charitable way of saying this is that my process is very varied. It's largely led by the writing. Like, I'm a writer by craft. That is my thing. So I start with the script. I start with the story. I start with, what do I want to say? Because it's not an official thing, because it's not something that I'm paid to do. There isn't one set process for it. So sometimes it'll be like, hey, yeah, no, I've recorded, I've written this script, I'm going to record it. Sometimes it's, I feel like making something, so I'll write something real quick that I can record like that and just go. Or sometimes it's, I want to do something by set date. So I will write a something to fit that set date. So it's not like there is any one process. It's a very, again, ramshackle thing, which isn't a very. It's not an answer that's very comforting, I think.
My process to fan films over the years has changed massively. When I was a kid, I was just writing what I knew. What I enjoyed about the show of Doctor Who at the time was the era that I was currently watching. So that would be Russell T Davies era 1, which was 2005 to 2010, technically. And so a lot of the stuff I was making there would be kind of based within those episodes and heavily inspired by it. My Doctor would be wearing a suit and a long coat, not quite the exact same, some differences, but it was always very much mimicking that. Over the years, you start to create your own identity. You start to, as you get older, you start having new ideas and not trying to be what the show was, but instead coming up with your own independent ideas to potentially add in your own way to the show, even if it's not considered part of the actual show. You kind of put your mark on it. So it's changed a lot now to a point where you, especially on YouTube with the fan film, fan audio fandom, you have now got people who are making their own shared universes and making their own stories and their own timelines and continuity with the show, and taking what they like about the show, because it's so multifaceted that you can kind of create your own universe, and people recognize that it's not you trying to be the show and that you're doing your own thing while still keeping the spirit of what Doctor Who is in that realm. Yeah, it's definitely changed a lot over the years for where I was when I started trying to be the show, trying to be the 11th Doctor after David Tennant's 10th Doctor, to now being a Doctor with his own identity. He doesn't have a number attached to him, and he's got his own continuity, and that's great.
How my approach to fan filmmaking, how would I say it's changed over the years? So back in like the Longbarrow Brothers days, I didn't have a camera, Anthony had a camera. I didn't have the editing software, Anthony had the editing software. So it was a much more of a collaborative hobby. Ironically, like, I don't want to say that it's not now a collaborative hobby. It's a very much a collaborative hobby, and I wouldn't be anywhere without the people that I make it with. But I now am in a position where I have the resources and the skill set and the everything to make this stuff happen without people, if needs be. So I've made fan films without other people's input, which I wasn't able to do before. And I've taken the lead on planning things like, okay, well, I can be here making this and this and this, which gives you a lot more freedom, really, as a creative, when you have the ability to sort of go, right, I know I can do this thing and this thing and this thing and this thing, and I don't need other people around necessarily to make these things happen. Also, I'm a lot more script focused than I was, which isn't to say that I wasn't before, but more I've grown as a writer. So I'm a lot more confident as a writer than I was 15 years ago. Like 15 years ago, I'd write a script and then I'd send it off and I'd be like, what do we think of this? Let's change it up. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. And I wasn't as confident with my stuff, with my writing, as perhaps I am now. Now I'm a lot more confident with the whole thing. And I'm a much more confident writer. So now I can write a script in like a day. Because I've written so many, I can be like, no, I've written this, it's ready. Or it's ready enough. You know, it's here, it's down, it's good, it's competent, it'll do what I want it to do. Whereas before it would be a much more laborious process because I wasn't as confident in the material and I wasn't able to do it independently. So, which makes me sound very egotistical, I'm sure. You know, it's not about, as a hobby, it's not about being in control. As a hobby, it's not about idiosyncratic approaches, but at the same time, having the freedom to say, I can make this, and I'm good enough to make this because I've spent 15 years making this stuff, and I've spent 15 years writing this stuff, and I've spent 15 years, growing as a creative individual, so that now I don't need to be apologetic, and I don't need to hand wring, so much. I can just go, no, it's done, it's ready, it's good, I'm happy with this. That's something that's changed over the years.
I'd say my process has changed. I'd say because I've been making fan films since I was in secondary school, my approach has changed drastically. I used to make fan films with just a camera, a tripod, a few friends, and it was clearly a product of its time. But now I really pay attention to the camera blocking, the camera placement, and also the camera movement, because it all leads to motivation and what motivates the story. And I think that's how my approach has changed, is that instead of making something because you want to tell a grand story, I think it's how can you do everything to make your story feel a bit more grander? What is the motivation behind everything? Was it doing in service of the story? At least that's what film school taught me. But I think that's what also, in general, I think everything serves the story. Everything needs to serve the story, and that's the one thing I think my approach has changed over the last few years.
Approach to fan films have changed massively, and now it's much more of a team effort these days. For a very long time, the fan community went from having a friendly rivalry to what I now see is actually quite a toxic rivalry. Actually, there was a lot of bitterness for a while of my fan film's better than your fan film, you're shit, we're the business. And it never should have been about that, really. And you get some people online arguing about who's better and who's got more views, and it's just not about that. And I think that has changed massively in recent years, where it has become much more of a community effort. One of the wonderful things about fan films and the community around it is that some of us have been around for a really long time. We've known each other since we were children, and we've now grown up and have all learnt about filmmaking. We've learnt the art. We have all helped each other with stuff. So now you have people like Daniel J. Patton, who does a load of VFX for everyone. You've got James Sutton, who is like, oh, do you want a prop made? Well, I can make you this prop, because he's now a prop expert. And I remember when Dan and James were, when we were kids, and we were just kind of making stuff in our sheds and in our bedrooms. And now we've all kind of grown up and have either become industry professionals or very close to that. And that's a really lovely thing, is that we've all grown up together online, and every now and then we'll meet in person and create something. And being able to have that real sense of community back after a long time of parts of the community being quite toxic and competitive in a way that isn't healthy, I think now the competition's a lot more healthy.
I think the thing I love most about making fan films is that Doctor Who especially is the biggest and probably the best sandbox you can play with in terms of stories, in terms of characters. There's definitely someone who quoted this before, I don't know who it was, but when you play in the sandbox that is like an IP, or you're playing with things, you're doing a fan film of anything, you play in a sandbox, you can add your own things, you get to clear it up later on, and someone else can have fun with it. I think that's one of the best things about Doctor Who. You can play in that sandbox, you can add new toys to it, toys as in like new characters, new stories, and it is so much fun to play around within that sandbox of ideas. And I think just because I love Doctor Who, I'm a massive Doctor Who fan, so I just love the idea of making something that tributes to something that has been so influential in my life, but as well as that, I get to take my own spin on it. I get to make my own characters. I really get to flesh them out as well over a prolonged period of time. It's something that satisfies me as a Doctor Who fan. It's something that satisfies me as a filmmaker, and it's something that I find very self-rewarding when I do it. And it's something that me, my wife, my closest friends get to do together, and it's rewarding in every sense that you get to make the best memories with these people whilst making something you truly love.
What I love most about fan films is the passion, honestly. I know a lot of this is kind of, I don't know if this is what you might call a hot take or controversial to say, but I prefer fan films that have literally no budget and look like they were made by fans. Nowadays, fan films have to have such a high level of quality to them and almost mimic the show's level of quality, but I think you lose the spirit of it. So there were fan films that I made as a kid, and friends of mine who, when we made fan films back in the day, we just met up as mates and just put a camera down on the tripod and acted. I miss that. I think I miss that from the fandom nowadays. Everyone thinks it's inaccessible. Well, maybe not everyone, but I feel like it feels inaccessible to most people because you have a kind of standard to keep, and people nowadays, it has to meet that standard, and I don't agree. I think I miss the days when I would put the camera down on the balcony or on the ground and then put the model toy TARDIS in front and make it land, and then we'd walk and put it in the grass or something, and then you'd have the characters then walk out in the woods, and it's like a model. It's like kind of the imagination of it, because now you have to do all CGI and everything like that, but where's the innovation? With me, I love fan films that kind of force you to imagine and to suspend some disbelief when watching it, like kind of the classic series did.
What I love most about fan films? Everything. That's a bit of a silly answer. No, it is everything. They are ultimately an expression of love. People love a thing, and because they love a thing, they want to contribute to it. They want to become part of it. They want to cross the liminal threshold that exists between media they love, like franchise media, like your Doctor Who's, your Star Trek's, your Star Wars's. They want to cross the liminal threshold that exists between that and the world that we sit in. And they want to say, no, I don't want to just sit on this side of that liminal threshold and consume media. I want to be part of it. And realistically, and this is very, very silly, and I'm not happy with it at all. And personally, I think if you were to ask me genuinely, I would say that actually franchise media needs to not be this way. But franchise media is impossible to get into. Like, I know a lot of Doctor Who fans, a lot. And of that lot of Doctor Who fans, all of whom are very talented, or at least a lot of whom are very talented in various creative fields. I can think of 3 who've made the transition to working for the show or in that world in some capacity. And it's not like they're working in that capacity, like it's not like they're working really high up capacities. They're working quite low down the rungs. Transitioning from being on this side of the screen to that side. Transitioning from being this side of the liminal divide between franchise and self. That divide is very difficult to cross. And so fan films allow us to cross that divide. Fan films allow us to say, well, okay, I'm never going to be in Star Trek. I'm never going to be in Star Wars. I'm never going to be Doctor Who. But I can cross that divide by making fan media. I can express my love for this thing that has helped shape the person I am. And invariably, franchise media has shaped the people we are. There's no getting around that. Invariably, franchise media and the franchise media we love shapes the people we are and the people we've become. And because it shaped us, we love it. And because we love it, we want to become part of it. And because we want to become part of it, we cross that border and make fan media. And as an expression of loving something that has helped shape us, there's very few things that I think are as good.
What do I love the most about fan films? The ingenuity of it and the originality of it. Obviously, some fan films are very close to the original series, and that's fine, but my favourite type of fan film is when it's really out there, and it's like, the reason we're making this is because we want to do something that the show's never done. So stuff like Samantha Dimmy, she did stuff with her Doctor a very long time ago in the Unbound sort of range, and I love stuff like Unbound because it's like the rules are off and we can just go for it, where her Doctor drank a lot and swore a bit, and it's like, wow, that's never been seen in the show, and there's some really interesting ideas there. Stuff like Doctor Who Velocity is really, really interesting because, again, it's like, yeah, we're going to do Davros, but this is our Davros. Yes, we're going to do Cybermen, but it's our design of Cybermen. Yes, we're going to do Daleks, but they're our design of Daleks and our idea, the idea of social media coming into it, the idea of this kind of Americanism of security and guns and things like that. That's something that the show has never done, and it creates its own style, so I love it when fan films do that. They go, okay, I'm going to take a monster like Krampus, or I'm going to take like an eldritch horror, do Doctor Who in that style. A lot of the time fan films will, especially when it's like a spin-off, a lot like Time Agent, which is one of my favourites, where it actually gets to the point where it becomes such an original series and actually is a series in its own right, not just a fan film. It actually distances itself a little bit from the original show and becomes something on its own because it's got such an original idea. That is awesome to see. That is absolutely wicked when that happens, because then it stops being just a fan film. It's still a fan film, but something's added to it. It's actually a drama in its own right.
My main bits of advice when it comes to starting to make fan films is be ambitious, but manage your ambition. I think when I first started, I might have gone a bit off the rails. No, a bit out of control here and there. I think, there were so many projects that were started that didn't go anywhere. And I think when it comes to handling your ambition, just kind of still aim to be ambitious. Start small. Start smaller. I think the merits and the joys of making fan films comes from the fact that a fan film that uses paper plates and bubble wrap and duct tape is and can be as good and an equal to a fan film that has an incredibly high budget. They stand as equals in this niche, and we are a niche. Making fan films within the Doctor community is a niche, which can be exciting. It can be exciting to explore and exciting to make within. As I said, duct tape and bubble wrap is on the same level as a professionally built TARDIS set. And also, enrich yourself in the community. I've made so many friends and worked with so many unique people just from making fan films and fan audios and getting to know people and not hiding away in my own little corner. Be wary of fan timelines and fan universes. I think there's a lot out there, and you have to find the right one if you want to. You can still have a lot of friends and work with a lot of people on your own, in your own little corner. But don't isolate yourself entirely. Do join a fan timeline. Be careful of that. Make sure that your Doctor fits into that timeline, and make sure that you get along with everyone in the group. But even so, just make sure that you're ready for that. And I would also say embrace the joy of it all. There's so much joy to be found making fan content, making fan films and fan audios. Don't look away from it. Really just put yourself into it. Go for it. If you want to make fan films, go for it. Genuinely. It can be the trip of a lifetime. I mean, as I said, I started making fan films 6 years ago, and since then it's been an absolute joy. My first ever fan film, aside from the fan audios, which of course in the pandemic, but my first ever fan film was just me and a bunch of college friends going to college and booking out the theatre room just after we left in the summer holidays, and putting together a short fan film that I still love to this day. Which I think, if you're going to make fan films, also look back on them and learn, and look back on them with fondness and joy. It might not be the same quality as where you get to, but it was still fun. You made it because they're passion projects. They are absolute passion projects. Do not forget that passion. Don't let it be that you put life over fan films, and that's not just for you, that's for the people you work with. Most people, I'd say 99% of people, are doing this for free. They are non-profit projects, and don't try to tamper with that, and don't try to push it, because we are in a niche legal grey zone. But you've got to admit, and you've got to keep in mind, people you work with and you are doing this for free. You're doing this out of your own time and out of passion. So when people work with you, just be kind, be considerate, and take into account that they have their own lives too. But I think if there's any of the best advice I can give you, it's be kind, be passionate, be considerate to yourself, the people you work with, and be ambitious. I hope you enjoy making fan films. If you go on to make them, as I said, it can be the trip of a lifetime, and I hope you enjoy it.
My advice for people who are making fan films, honestly, is just have fun with it. You're gonna come into it probably with the biggest idea. You want to make this 60 minutes fan film. You want to have Daleks, Cybermen, and all the good stuff. You want to start from the top when you really should be starting from about the middle, maybe even lower, because you need to start building yourself up. You need to start building yourself up with confidence, both in front, potentially if you're acting in it, like I did foolishly, and you need to grow your confidence both in front and behind camera. You need to grow your resources because you're probably not going to start off with many resources. So you need to think, what can you tell what you have? And more importantly, biggest bit of advice I can give you guys is make sure people have fun. Because if you're not having fun, then it's not worth making. It's gotta be something that you are making with friends to make it long, loving memories with. And it's gotta be something that you're all gonna look back on very fondly in a few years' time. Because at the end of the day, no one's paying you to make fan films. You are making the fan film because you love to make films. You love to make something about something you're so passionate about. So make it fun and make sure you're making good memories about it as well.
For any advice for people wanting to start out is to just do it. Don't look to everybody else for necessarily, don't treat their standard or where they are currently as where you need to start from. You need to start from where you are and what you know. And it's all a massive learning curve because it looks like so much you have to do. You have to do this, you have to do that. Or nowadays, and you don't, you just need a camera. You need a camera, a doctor, and a sonic screwdriver. Literally, that's it. And you can make it, and you build like everybody does. You build from where you are, from what you know. You eventually go, oh, I know how to do that now. I'm going to add this to it. I'm going to add this, that. Off you go. You know. So like, honestly, just do it, and it might not be great, and you'll probably look back on it in a few years' time if you carry on pushing on and think, what on earth? But you appreciate the journey. You always appreciate the journey.
Any advice to people that want to make fan films themselves? That's really interesting. Don't make your dream project first. A lot of fan films, not just Doctor Who fan films, but fan films as a whole, it will be someone who's never made a film before and they'll go for their dream film first, and because they've not studied the art of filmmaking and they've not done it before, it often won't be very good. Make as much content as you can, as long as you're having fun and as long as you're progressing. I think that progression is really important as a filmmaker. Always try to get better, always try to learn more, and learn from other people who are doing the same thing as you. Don't copy them, but learn from them. It is also about having fun, and just because you haven't got, you know, a £3 million police box or, you know, screen accurate costumes or, you know, the most amazing special effects in the world, if you're doing something that's just for you and you're enjoying it, then no one can push you down for that. Then you should be able to enjoy that as much as you want. I wouldn't consider myself like an expert on the canon of Doctor Who fan content, but I do have very strong opinions on the form that it takes and what it should be like and what works and what doesn't. For instance, a Doctor's costume, come up with something original. It doesn't have to necessarily be, you know, whimsical and zany and crazy, but it also shouldn't look like normal clothes. If you're going to have a sonic screwdriver, don't just get the latest character options toy and go, this will do. Even if it's not a custom design, like if it's a design of one of the previous Doctors, make sure it resonates something with you. And with the stories, don't rip off stories. You know, we all did that as like young kids starting out, and we went, I'm just going to make a remake of this. Like, don't do that. You don't need to. It's been seen. The fact is, when you put the words Doctor Who in the title of a YouTube video, chances are you're going to get more views on that video than you are of your original content, which is a good thing and a bad thing because you want your original content to get an audience. But if you make a Doctor Who fan film, you're going to have an audience, which means do something that just you can do. Believe in yourself, create that content, don't doubt yourself, and enjoy it.
So, do I have any advice for somebody who may want to make a fan film themselves? Yes. You will suck. Everybody sucks when they start. Like, the first fan film I ever made sucked. Not the one that we released, but the first fan film that I ever made, like in 2006, it sucked. I was not as good an actor as I am now. I was not as good a writer as I am now. It sucked. To a certain extent, you have to allow yourself the grace to suck, you know? And don't worry about sucking. Like, go out there, make something cheap and naff and sucky. Make something awful, because that is how you grow. Don't be afraid of the awful thing, because the awful thing is the foundation of the cooler thing, and the cooler thing on top of that, and the cooler thing on top of that. Like, be naff. Give yourself permission to be naff. Give yourself permission to make that cheap fan film. Give yourself permission to toss on the first coat that you can find in a charity shop and wave a toy sonic screwdriver about and go, I'm Doctor Who. You know, give yourself permission to sit in front of a green screen, you know, with a cheap cosplay Star Trek uniform and go, yeah, I'm just gonna make a Star Trek fan film now. Give yourself permission to like get a light up toy lightsaber for 20 quid off Amazon and just make a terrible Star Wars fan film. Give yourself permission to suck.
Now, the thing is, like, the last question was favorite fan film. I can't remember if this is the context, what's my favorite fan film that I've made or favorite fan film in general. So I think I'm going to do a 2-for-1. I'm going to tell you my favorite fan film, and I'm going to tell you my favorite fan film that I've made. So my favorite fan film is a fan film from Doctor Who 2009. It's called Fire and Ice. It is a sublime piece of work. It is an incredible fan film, and if anyone is like a massive fan of Doctor Who, especially in like the early 2000s, like 2007, 2008 sort of era of Doctor Who, this will be your cup of tea. In terms of my favorite fan films, that's the thing is, I've got sort of like a non-biasy thing, but Dimension of Daleks is my favorite episode that I've ever worked on, just because it is one of those ideas that I've had in my head for so long, and I was finally able to achieve it. And it's my favorite fan film because it took so much time, it took so much work, but I'm so grateful to everyone who helped me make it. That is my favorite.
What would be my favourite fan film? Oh my god, so many. I'm biased because I'm in the finale, but Doctor Who Fractured Timeline, absolutely. I love Thomas Rhys-Kay's stuff. The Projection Room, I think, is fantastic. Nick Scoville and all of his fan films and his Doctor as a whole is just a fascinating character in itself. Time Agent blew my mind apart when I was a kid, and I watched that religiously, and as far as I'm concerned, that's canon to the actual show. Other fan films. Devious, even though it's still not done. It's been amazing seeing the journey that Devious has had. Lots of, so many fan films out there. I could honestly, this video could have been an hour long, because I'm a fan film nerd, man. Growing up on YouTube in the 2000s, seeing these creators make their own version of Doctor Who is literally the reason that I'm now a director. You know, I now direct for film and TV. I now direct the stage. I run my own theatre company. I studied filmmaking. I studied theatre. I studied to become an actor. All of that has come from seeing fan filmmakers on YouTube 15 years ago or more and going, well, they're doing that, so I can do it.
What would my favourite fan film be? That's a very interesting question. I think. See, I'm really weird. I love fan films that are cheaper and less polished because they feel more authentic to me. You know, I look at a polished and like expensive fan film, and like 9 times out of 10, I look at a polished and expensive fan film, and I think, yeah, you're polished and you're expensive, but I feel like there's not as much soul in that. Like you're not enjoying it as much. You know, like a lot of fan films that have been running for a very long time have polished themselves to perfection, but I feel like in the process they lose a lot of soul. You know, for example, Star Trek New Voyages. I love their earlier stuff. I love In Harm's Way. It's one of my favourites because that's basically a big crazy time travel story where Captain Kirk and the crew of the Enterprise fight an army of doomsday machines. You know, I love that. I love that because it's big and crazy and fun, and, you know, it's not apologetic about being schlocky fan stuff. It's not apologetic. It's not apologizing for being big schlocky fan stuff. Whereas later on they started using real scripts from real people and, you know, getting professional actors and professional directors, and it was very polished and good material, and still the best stuff that they ever made was the schlocky fan stuff, you know. I loved the schlocky fan stuff. I would have loved to write for the schlocky fan stuff, but I never got the opportunity. I think my favourite stuff is always the stuff that's just a bunch of people come together and make a silly schlocky fan film, and it's not polished and the CGI is rubbish, but my god, they loved doing it. My god, they loved doing it. And I will hold up the schlocky, you know, naff stuff hands down over the more polished stuff because it feels like somebody gave a damn, basically. So, you know, In Harm's Way is one of my favourites. I really love pretty much all of Starship Intrepid from Scotland because, like, those guys, every episode, they've got more polished, but you can still feel that they love what they do. You know, that they love making stuff, and they're not just making it, you know, they're not making it for anyone but themselves, you know, and they love doing it. I love that for them. I love that for them so much. Vance Major, like pretty much anything that he's done, but actually Constar the Motion Picture by Vance Major in America is a really big favourite of mine. That's a really good Star Trek fan film that he made with his son. You know, he fell a little bit out of love with fan filmmaking, but then his son got into it, and he's come back to it, and you can really tell that he and his son love making that together. That's amazing. You know, like the classic stuff from Doctor Who fandom, like Nick Scoville's stuff. Millennium Trap especially is like gold standard Millennium Trap. I actually prefer the Millennium Trap to Power of the Daleks. Again, it's that polished thing that we're talking about. Like, yeah, Power of the Daleks is a more polished fan film, but the Millennium Trap is more fun. You know, pretty much anything by the Projection Room. All of that stuff is just gold. Absolute gold.
As a result of appreciating the journey, my favourite fan film at the moment because obviously there are so many and they always change because you always see new visions and ideas. Currently, the fan film that sticks in my head the most is Doctor Who Devious, which has been in the production process since the early 90s, since the Wilderness years began really. That has been a massive labour of love by Doctor Who fan films, and you can see when they filmed it, you can see the different eras of film play out. You've got scenes from filming in 1994, I think it was, and then 2004, and the actors stayed with it, the same people who were making it stayed with it, and then you've got new people involved to help with the post-production, and now to a point where it's a 6-part series and the 6th episode is only left to come out, and that's just wonderful. It's a massive labour of love, and that is a great example of what I've just said. It's something that you stick with and you build upon, and sometimes you need to refilm if you feel like you could do better, which is fair enough, but never lose any of that footage. You always want to hold on to it to remind yourself, and there are good times in that footage as well. Even if you feel that it's not appropriate for the fan film, you want to keep that footage because it reminds you of good times as well. You want to keep, it's making memories just as much as it is making a film. So yeah, indeed. Thank you very much.
I hope you enjoyed the rest of the convention, and thank you so much for inviting me to talk, Aidan. Bye bye, everyone.
So yeah, no, I'm going to stop rambling now because I've been rambling for a long time. I'm having to cut down my rambles because I'm pretty certain I accidentally swore a couple of times. So yeah.
And that's what FanFilm's about. They're doing it, we can do it.
Right, thank you everyone for watching, and go back to Aidan for the rest of the panel.
So big thank you again to KAIZOKU for letting me do this. I really, wish I'd sorted out the Gmail error beforehand, but it is what it is. But again, thank you very much. And thank you to everyone for coming. I really appreciate it and coming to see these things, because I just put a good bit of work into it, and I'm glad people got to see it in some form. So I would say any questions, but yeah, just thank you, Chris.
And now we're here. So I just want to say a massive thank you to the entire audience who attended my panel. It meant so much to me, especially someone who has so much trouble speaking in public places. It just meant the world that people showed up and listened for about an hour, even with all the technical issues and whatnot. It meant a lot, and thank you very much. And to all the creators, Dan, Connor, Jed, Rory, Ruben, just thank you so much. Like, genuinely, thank you so much for everything that you gave in your videos. It meant so much to just hear them in the edit when I was making the video for the panel, and then just going back through it, there was so much there, like so much. I mean, God, you guys, like the amount of information given was just mental. Like the way you spoke about going about making a fan film, going about producing one, going about just the different ways of trying to make one, even just on a little shoestring budget, which, I mean, as someone who does that himself, it is nice that we're all kind of in the same boat. But also how you guys spoke about the community and how it needs to be, things need to be done in a more positive manner, something more productive, more constructive. I think that was incredible, and fair play to everyone who spoke about it, because you're right. And we all need to be doing more. Like, I certainly need to be doing more. Like that, I'm glad that this video kind of came around the right time, because I think the community needs to be doing more. And I mean, especially with the current news now that, well, I don't need to go too much into it, but we all know what just happened with Doctor Who. But yeah, I think, honestly, if we can, that would be great. And no, just honestly, guys, thank you so much. And all your examples of your favorite fan films was just so nice. I mean, I share the love of, things like Devious, The Projection Room, Doctor Who Fire and Ice, those different kind of fan films from, the older years of Who and all that. It's just wonderful. And like, I mean, if I'm to give my favorite fan film, it would be Dan's. You know, I grew up on Dan's fan films, and I was lucky enough, as I say in the panel, to be in them. So, yeah. So, thank you again to all those who attended the panel, and thank you to all the wonderful, beautiful creators who gave their thoughts. It meant so much. So, this is me, Super Circuit, signing off for the first time in ages.